What if the hardest part of fat loss wasn't motivation, it wasn't discipline, but it was hunger? Hello and welcome to Beast of Burden. My name's Paul Bassett. I own Hounds of Health in Wandsworth, London. Today I wanted to talk about the GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic, Mounjaro, things like that. And we get probably weekly inquiries about it. We get a lot of people who are already on them before they start working with us, and we have people who are considering to start taking them who are already in our client base. And I just think it's something that we're all thinking about, we all know about, we know someone who's on them, and we might be really seriously considering whether or not it's the right fit for you. So this podcast is really, for those of you who've been either listening or watching the recent podcasts, I like to deep dive into things that are really relevant to our clients. And I'm on the front line. Whenever I sit down with people or get on the phone, I'm hearing their stories. I'm hearing what's really relevant to them, and I'm hearing their challenges. The first thing I ask people is, what is your big frustrations that you're experiencing around your health and fitness? And the stories I hear, there's a lot of commonalities, and they're not always weight loss. There's lots of other things going on. And so I can pull from that experience, and I can pull from that real world application of fitness principles and applying them to people with busy lives, busy, complex scenarios that actually make it stick long term, because there's something that works on paper, and then there's something that actually works for the person in front of you. And these GLP-1s are really important. One thing I would say right from the start, I am not a medical individual. I do not have a medical understanding of the GLPs. I have obviously looked into them, but I'm not going to start reeling off studies. I'm not going to work out whether or not it's efficacy, things like that. What I do want to talk about is the reality of actually being on it once you've been guided by your doctor, because it'll be you and your doctor or healthcare provider that'll be making that decision. What happens if you want to maintain your fitness whilst being on those things, and what could be going through your thinking that would make you start questioning on whether or not these things are right for you, because there is that stage prior to actually phoning up your doctor and saying, hey, I want to discuss this. Then there's the next stage of actually taking them, and then there's the reality of being on them, which is where we kind of come into play. And like I say, I don't manage any of the dosage. I don't understand what's the best course of treatment, and that's not really my role, and I'd be definitely stepping outside any sort of remit if I was to do so. And I have no moral judgment on them right from the start. I have no moral judgment on them either way. They are a tool as far as I'm concerned, and could there be better options that don't require you to take an additional drug? And yeah, of course. It's a way I teach because we don't advise anyone to take supplementation that's not necessary. We're more about the habits, behaviors, mindset, and that's the angle I come from, and that's the angle I'm always going to push. But also, I always work with the person in front of me and the decisions that they've come to of their own information and the people that they trust. So, well, firstly, I made some notes today because obviously it's not an area that I'm an expert on, but I wanted to make some notes on just like what I thought we could bring to the table in this discussion. First thing is, you've heard about them. There's a lot of marketing. They're revolutionary. They've disrupted the weight loss industry. They've disrupted the perception of body weight. They've disrupted the kind of results that people are getting. And, well, it's the first time we're seeing massive or large-scale weight loss globally. That can be measured and is well recorded. People are seeing anywhere between about 10% to 20% body weight that they're losing. And if you're not intrigued, then I think at least look into it so you at least understand it when someone talks to you. So what do they do? I've made some notes on what I see as the main things that people are experiencing. The first thing is that they are reducing their appetite. So one thing that a lot of people talk about when they start, when there's some initial side effects that some people have, like nausea, low energy, a bit of dizziness, things like that, but they're reducing their appetite. In fact, they find they're not really even thinking about food. That hunger noise is really silenced. What it also does is slows stomach emptying, which obviously digestive transit is something you can play with depending on the kinds of food you eat. You know, slow, and I can give some solutions to how you would approach this without a GLP, but one of which is, you know, the kind of foods you consume. Obviously, the body processes and digests them at different speeds. You know, something that's very fibrous, as we all know, is going to take longer than something that's been ground up, powdered, and processed highly. So another thing is blood sugar control. Obviously, that's something that's really relevant to a lot of people with diabetes or pre-diabetes, people who have low muscle mass. You know, they struggle to control the amount of glucose, which obviously, as we know, if it's not controlled, it can create diabetic scenario for people, in which, you know, when you've got that excess sugar through the bloodstream, it is a poison. And then alongside that, people are feeling fuller for longer once they do eat. So the idea is that really when someone approaches their doctor or whoever they're working with to get one of these GLPs, they are trying to solve a problem that most people come to us to solve. They're trying to solve this issue where they are wanting to drop their body fat. They may be in a bit of a loop. And that loop is that they are trying things but not seeing any results. And there's nothing more frustrating than trying really hard and not seeing any changes. Now, what we see typically is that a lot of people have never been taught any of the basic skills around fitness and health. They've inherited them from whoever their parents are. And their parents sometimes were quite healthy and they've maintained their health, and that's fine. We've got other people who have never been taught things. Their parents have got dysfunctional eating habits, and that's what they've learned from their parents. Or they've been in dysfunctional scenarios and learned dysfunctional behaviors around food. Some people have jobs where they don't move. People don't like sport. We all have those things. So they're trying to solve these problems, but they've never really deep dived into those areas. So the GLP-1 is, and look, the reality is that most people's healthcare professional is not a personal trainer. I'm aware I'm a luxury. I am a luxury. I'll say that to my clients, see how that goes down. But you know, most people don't have personal trainers. But most people have access to a doctor. And when you're talking about these things, doctors have a different skill set. They are not. I don't have the skill set of a doctor. Most of them are not strength coaches. Most of them don't do body transformations. They're there to help keep people out of pain, prescribe the right medications, track medical issues, refer. You know, when it exceeds their speciality, they can refer out, and obviously spot emergencies before they become emergencies. So, in the absence of having the skills to solve those things on your own or with a coach, good solution could be take a pill. And they work. I mean, the reality is they work. So a lot of the people we work with, you know, who do them, they do start seeing fat loss, and they do start reporting that food is less of a thing in their life, in their day. They're not thinking about it all the time. They're not snacking. They're not so consumed by hunger. And that started to lead to weight loss, which is really important for them because they're starting to see for the first time in their own journey momentum. And if there's a positive to GLP-1s, it is, oh my God, the door is now open, the gate has been unlocked. I can now start seeing that this is possible, and I can start seeing that maybe I can start turning the ship. And that's what gets people engaged. They start taking it, and then they think, maybe now I've got that sorted, and that doesn't feel as overwhelming part of my life. I can then get stronger, fitter, healthier. And from there, you start shifting the balance from mainly a drug intervention to a habit and behavioral intervention, which starts to gain momentum that side, and it's less important to have the GLP-1s. Now, I don't have any evidence in front of me. It tells me how long people are on these things for. I think, you know, if we look at it, most people lack the knowledge to fight the biology on their own. And this gives them that step up. Now, once you're on the step, I think other structures need to come in place to start supporting you. There are certain drugs out there that you cannot come off. If you're a diabetic and you need to control your insulin, it's unwise for you to come off your medication. It's the same if you're on cancer. It is unwise if you have cancer to come off your medication, obviously until it is solved. Now with the GLP-1s, I don't suggest that they're a long-term solution to something you can solve with some habits. And we do see sometimes, well, one of the challenges you have is that if you rely purely on the GLP-1 as to solve it, it will not get you the pace of change that you think. You will not establish the habits once you come off, and you'll be reliant on it. So what it doesn't change you. It just gives you a better window where you're not worrying so much about the uncontrollable, the things you don't understand, your biological, hormonal, emotional need to eat. And I think it dampens that down, and that's where we step in with some habits and behaviors around that. One of the challenges, I think, is that, and this is where some of the evidence I've looked into it is that someone who is on the GLP-1s, when we take weight loss as the main factor of progress, as we all know, weight doesn't tell us the whole picture, does it? There's fat, there's muscle, there's water, there's all these kind of things. And there is some evidence to suggest that people are losing an equal amount of fat and muscle. Now, there may be variance depending on the drugs, the doses and things like that. What we're seeing with our clients is that those people on GLP-1s and who strength train are growing muscle and certainly not losing any. They're certainly not losing any at all. So it's the key thing I would say is that as soon as you start this, you need to be bang straight into working out and getting stronger. Let's maintain that muscle mass, because what you don't want to be is a smaller version of your bigger self. So if you're struggling with low muscle mass and low body fat and high body fat, you don't want to be a smaller version of you with low muscle mass and high body fat. You want to have high body muscle, and you want to have low body fat. Okay, that's the scenario you want, and obviously that will only happen if you start putting force on the muscles, and that's really where a coach or a fitness program or whatever you decide to do is going to come into play here. So there is the rebound problem. So once you start coming off it, like anything, it's like if you go cold turkey on alcohol and you don't start putting all those other structures in place, you will reach for the bottle when you get stressed again. And I think it's the same with this. If there's a lot of emotional stuff around food and you come off the GLP-1 and you don't have pillars of support around you, people, new habits, whatever, then you will go back and start eating again. It does happen, okay? It's life-changing. I think why would you start taking it? I think if you have diabetes, I think if you're obese, I think if you've had a history of failed cycles around food, that you've tried and tried and tried and tried and tried and you've never been able to hold it down, and you're inconsistent, it can give you a little bit of an extra runway. And I think everyone has their own individual experience of food. Some people are just very hungry people and maybe just have a very direct response to hunger. And they need to relearn those cues so that they start making better decisions when they're hungry. Where I see us accelerating beyond what the GLPs can do is that we are often working on multiple fronts and trying to solve the problem from multiple angles. We are not trying to we're not trying to do a short-term fix. We are thinking the long game. And also what I often see, and this is reality because we're all adults here, that many people have never been taught how to take care of themselves. They're taught how to fit into whatever scenario allows them to get a job or pass exams or be socially acceptable, all of which are very important, don't get me wrong, but they've never been taught how to be healthy. Because unless you have a healthy culture, unless you have a healthy way of life, you will not have been taught in lessons in schools how to do this. You will have been, so really health comes down to culture. What's the culture at home? What's the culture in your country, in your region, in your friendship group? And so we try and create culture. And we're going to influence the individual through culture, through behaviors which are implicit in being part of this culture. So when someone walks through the door, you're going to have accountability. You're going to have an expectation. You're going to have a structured environment. You're going to have targets. You're going to have standards. You're going to have expectations, you're going to have compassion, you're going to have knowledge. All of those things are now your fingertips, and that's going to allow you to start filling in the gaps which the GLP has given you an opportunity to address. So we open the door. We could either stay in the when you've got a scared animal and maybe you're taking a cat to the little dog, or there's some animal that's just been taken to the vet and they're in a cage, and you open the door. The animal can stay in that cage or it can run to freedom, okay? And so your job is, once the GLP-1 has opened that door and the cage is now open, it's you can run into the freedom, and that's where we'll work with you. So I'm seeing crazy results with what we do. I mean, we've just started our Emergence 12-week program, which is basically running the system that we run for everyone, but just with a really dedicated people who are going to follow exactly what we say and have a bit of a target because they've got a photo shoot. And they're basically just doing the program that we give everyone. They're just doing it as intended, which is high levels of accountability, high levels of focus around food intake, high levels of recording data, high levels of attendance, all those things. We're seeing people lose significant fat over the course of 1 week just by hitting a calorie target, measuring it and tending and getting their 10,000 steps in a day. It's just changing lives. I can give you a very simple path to success just right now. 10,000 steps a day. Record your weight twice a week, or every day. Do your measurements at least twice a week. Do an in-body scan or some kind of scanning thing if you can and you have access to it. Do your measurements every week. Attend 3 strength training sessions a week, and have an accountability partner. And set yourself a timeline. Okay, and if you get those things and do them really, really well. Oh, and I forgot the calorie target, very important calorie target. So don't let me forget that one. The calorie target as well. So once we've got all those things in place, that means we'll automatically have our planning and prepping of our food. We'll know what we're eating day to day. We'll have our diary planned. Once all those things are in place, wow, things accelerate. And we're starting to see really consistent people who were training a lot but weren't doing the other things, suddenly losing 2 kilos of body fat in a week. Starting to see hunger disappear when they ate their protein. Starting to feel full. And questioning whether they're eating too much, even though they're in a 1,000-calorie deficit. You know, if I've got a 6-foot guy who's now eating 2,400, 2,500 calories, and he's eating 180, 200 grams of protein, and he's eating mainly whole foods, and he's doing his 10,000 steps, they're feeling really full, and they're starting to lose weight. Now, guys sometimes lose weight faster than women. We've had a woman just lose 2 kilos of body fat, I believe, in the last week. So that was great. But men have more muscle, so there's more metabolic activity in a sense, so it's a bit easier for them. But a lot of our women in our classes have a lot of muscle because they're getting stronger. And I think that's one of the things you need to build. Build that metabolic machinery. Build a desire that when that hunger is there, the hunger is serving a purpose. It's refilling muscle supplies. It's helping your body rebuild. It's refueling, okay? Without the activity there, a lot of people on GLP-1s, they're not doing their steps. They're not strength training. They're not doing the basics. We get that done here. We're firstly going to build lifelong skills that don't cost anything. You're going to have the body you want, because GLP-1 won't give you the body you want. It will help you lose weight. And that's very different to changing your body. And most people, when they're getting ready for their wedding, or they're wanting to look great in a bikini or swim shorts, they're not thinking about being lighter. They're thinking about having better shape, and they want to have more energy so that where they do look healthy, they look vibrant, because someone could be the same weight as someone else and not feel energetic, and they don't look as good. So all those things we're doing. And if we get someone who's now had that door open, the windows open, they're ready because the GLP-1 has given that confidence to start doing that, great, we'll run with that. But what I want to do is get off that dependency and start building your ownership over all those habits. That can happen quickly. It'll probably take much longer than you think. It'll probably be a bit of a slog, and it'll be, it doesn't mean just taking a pill twice a day or an injection or whatever form you get it in. It does mean a lot of hard work, turning up when it's cold and wet, doing the weights, getting sweaty, but the kind of person you'll build off the back of that will never need the GLP-1 again. You'll always have that ownership yourself. And I want anyone who leaves working with us, and people won't work with us forever, I want them to leave this place feeling like they are in control of their own destiny. They have ownership over that path, And they also can take stock whenever they're in a stressful situation, go, I know how to solve this. I've been here before and I solved it. One of the things on the 12-week program that someone said, I had a work lunch and I was fine. I made good decisions. Usually I'd be drinking too much. Or I'd feel the pressure to drink, and they felt great. We had other people go away and go out on nights out, and they felt great because they had a plan. They're not flying by the seat of their pants. So if the GLP-1 gives you that moment where you feel like you've got something to hold on to and you can believe in yourself once more, my advice is then run with that. Let's use that momentum. We're going to get a little bit of extra speed on the fat loss. We're going to get a little bit of extra speed that we can really utilize in other areas. Let's get you strong. Let's get you taking ownership. Let's get some behaviors in place and make sure you're prepared for when you finally start reducing your doses and coming off that GLP-1. So I hope that's been useful. Like I say, there's no stats in there. There's nothing, just real world advice on how we would work with someone on the GLP-1s. And if you're thinking about doing it, obviously talk to your healthcare professional. Do not talk to your personal trainer. That's not what we're trained in. If all you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I'm always thinking, can I solve that with diet? Can I solve that with deadlifts? And the double Ds. But that's how I think, really, because that's the tools that I've got. I do have some other tools, but it's the same with like a surgeon. A surgeon will probably find a surgical solution to a problem that a physio would find a movement solution to, and vice versa. A dietitian would find a diet solution to. I'll take a bit of everything. Whatever solution we get, we've got to get you to where you want to be. And there's certain tools that are better for the job. So if you want to get strong, you've got to lift weights. If you want to be really good at running, you've probably got to run. And if you want to lose weight, you've probably got to look at your diet. Okay, and if the GLP-1 allows you to take control of your diet, wow, great, we can capitalize on that. So I hope that's been useful. It's been good for me to think through it. And if you've got any questions or any subjects that you would like me to discuss going forwards, please subscribe to this new YouTube channel. It is very fresh. So we're starting to build the content there. But for those of you watching this for the first time, we do have all our podcasts, all my podcasts, for my business, Hounds of Health, and this is Beast the Burden. We've got that all on Spotify and iTunes. So we've got a history of all those episodes there. I'm covering all kinds of subjects, from like how to get strong through to losing motivation, you name it. There's all kinds of things. Talk about diet, I talk about tracking devices, stuff like that. So some of which I might cover again on video. Yeah, please do like and subscribe to this channel, share it with someone, and we'll see you next week.